If you grew up with an alcoholic parent, happiness can feel like something that's only attainable for other people. It can feel like something that's completely out of reach for you and your life. But this video here today is to show you that you can break the cycle. You can feel happiness. And I'm going to show you step by step right now. I'm Corey. I'm a qualified trauma-informed mind-body practitioner. And I work with adult children of alcoholics to help them come out of survival mode, release the shame, and enjoy life on their terms. And today we're going to be talking about the 5 steps for happiness. So step 1 is what I like to call AA, and not Alcoholics Anonymous. It's accept and awareness. So acceptance of your current situation and awareness of how your past is now impacting your future. A lot of times I hear from other adult children of alcoholics, and a thing that they will always say is, oh, well, other people have had it worse than me, or my childhood or how I grew up wasn't as bad as some other people out there. And yes, that might be true. But the fact is, your childhood, your environment, the way that you grew up and you were brought up has had an impact on you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here watching this video. So the first step is actually accepting the fact that having an alcoholic parent has impacted your life and you in one way or another. The second step is then, the second part of the first step is the awareness piece. How has having an alcoholic parent impacted you up until now? So you started off here in childhood, and then you grew up through life, and now you're here. But all of this crap, all the way from childhood to now, has had some lasting impact on you, okay? Whether that is your mental health, your physical health, behaviors, your choices, the way that your life has turned out. Whatever has happened here and on the road to where you are now has had a lasting impact, has created the life you're living now. So the fact is, it's understanding how A has gotten you to B, and then how you can get from B to point C, which is where you want to go. So where you want to go in the future. So true happiness, true fulfillment and joy and contentment comes when you have the ability to accept your current situation of where you are, accept how your past has impacted you up until now, and accept that it has impacted you. And secondly, the awareness. How has that impacted you? So how has having an alcoholic parent impacted you up until this point? Step 2. This is reconnecting back to your inner child and also allowing yourself to feel the emotions that you didn't allow or you didn't know how to feel and process as a child. So step 2, inner child and emotions. Now, a lot of children of alcoholics will have a wounded inner child. And the reason being is that inner child work is not this woo-woo, hippy-dippy method that people might think it is. Inner child work is super important for anyone who has grown up with any sort of childhood trauma or where their needs were not met. The reason being is you will continue to bring through life the unmet needs from your childhood. So whatever didn't get met when you were younger, you will then continue to carry with you. And all of these different lines are all different unmet needs that you then bring through to where you are now as an adult. Sad face. Now, what these unmet needs could be is that you didn't feel like you were enough. You were never seen and heard. Your emotional needs were not met. So when you were upset or when you were scared about something that may have happened in your house when you were growing up with an alcoholic parent, and if you didn't get the comfort that you needed as a child, you then still carry that through into adulthood. The feeling of not being enough as well is a really, really big one that people carry from being a child into adulthood. So when these needs go unmet, they don't just disappear. They need to be met to then disappear, to then stop having such a firm grip on your life. And how you do that is with inner child work. And that's recognizing and acknowledging the inner child within the adult version of yourself today. Emotions. A lot of the time, people who grow up with an alcoholic parent will not know how to manage or regulate their emotions. The reason being is because when you grow up in that environment, I could bet my life on it that your parent didn't know how to manage or acknowledge or regulate their own emotions. And we learn, like as children, we learn from the adults in our life. We learn from what we are watching, what we see. So we witness people who may start to feel a negative emotion like anger or scared, or they may feel like frustration or worry about work or whatever is your parent is stressing or annoyed about. And we see that their first reaction is always anger. So it's always straight into reactive, straight into getting really annoyed. So then we mimic that. We think that as we grow up into adults and that behavior is ingrained in us, that that's how you deal with stress or with fear or with the unknown. So that's how we then replicate their behavior. Or it can be as simple as you see your adult shut down, they're ignoring, they're burying their head in the sand. So that then becomes our norm, our first response to emotions. But emotions, like inner child, if they're not recognized, if they're not given the attention and they're not felt, they will continue to persist. And the saying of what we resist persists could not be any more true. If you have emotions from childhood that are anger, rage, sadness, guilt, shame, whatever it was you felt in your childhood, and you haven't allowed yourself to really sit and feel those emotions, they are going to continue to persist in adulthood. And you will continue to be a really annoyed, angry, and upset adult, but not fully understanding why. And the why is the fact that you're not allowing yourself to feel. So step 2 is very much a internal focused step. Allowing yourself and acknowledging that your inner child is wounded and you are still carrying that around with you today. It's about acknowledging that the emotions that you push down, that you choose to ignore, that you numbed yourself from, that you're scared of feeling, will continue to show up in your life and will continue to control your life. You may not know they are until you allow yourself the space and the time to sit and feel them. And that is why one of the biggest steps, and this step should probably have an overarching title called stillness and space, because that's what you need to be able to feel and acknowledge these two. You need to create stillness and space in your life to allow yourself to acknowledge your inner child and acknowledge your emotions. So step 3, and this is one of the most difficult steps for a lot of people out there, but it's one of the most difficult steps for children of alcoholics, and that is boundaries. Setting healthy boundaries in place so you give yourself the space that you need to heal. So boundaries do not mean that you cut people out of your life. Boundaries do not mean that you do not have to speak to certain people ever again. A boundary is a line. So you're here. A boundary is a line that you draw between you and something else that's taking your energy. And whatever this might be that's taking your energy, this line that you're putting there is your boundary. Now, that doesn't mean you don't engage at all with the energy sucker, we're going to say. But it does mean that you have a protective wall up between you and this energy sucker. Because if you don't, they will continue to take from you what you need to actually heal. So for example, if you have an alcoholic parent and they're over here and you're here, and without your boundary in place, you've got no boundary, they are continuing to take all of your energy. So whether that may be that they're texting you when they're drunk, they're calling you when they're drunk, they're leaning on you to make their therapy appointments, to make their doctor's appointments, to come around and clean up their mess anytime they pass out when they're pissed drunk. So they're taking, and all this is taking, and you're being depleted. Now, if you put your boundary in place, it's much more difficult for them to take your energy. And what that boundary is doing, it's protecting your energy and it's protecting you and allowing you the space that you need to heal. And I know a lot of people will think a boundary feels selfish, or a boundary feels like something, it's not right. It's not the right thing to do. But there comes a time in your healing journey, and there comes a time, again, it comes back to acceptance, that you have to accept the fact that you have to put yourself first if you want happiness. If you don't want happiness, then you don't have to do this. That's fine. You can continue to allow people to take and take and take from you. But if you do want happiness, if that is something that you desperately want in your life, you have to allow yourself to feel uncomfortable with the fact that you are going to have to build up your boundary. You're going to have to lean into the uncomfortable feeling of what it feels like to put that in, first of all, because you'll feel guilty. You'll feel wrong. You'll feel selfish. You'll feel like you're doing the wrong thing because it's not normal to you. Setting boundaries is not your norm. And you know, as an adult, doing anything new, facing anything that you've never ever done before is uncomfortable. It's like if you're going for a job interview and you've never gone for a job interview before. It's scary. It gives you anxiety. It's super uncomfortable, but it doesn't mean it's wrong. Okay. So just because you're feeling resistance from doing this, from setting boundaries, does not make it wrong for you. And you do at some point have to allow yourself to lean into the resistance little by little to then make this become more of a norm for you. Step 4, and this is one I talk about all the time, and you'll see if you follow any of my content, you'll know that I talk about this as much as I can, is healing your nervous system, okay? Your nervous system is one of the most important aspects of your healing journey, and I'm going to tell you why. The reason being is because when you grow up with an alcoholic parent, okay, it is not just impacting your mental health. So for example, when I was going through like my really tough times for having an alcoholic parent, my main focus was the fact that I was suffering with all these mental health problems because of that. So I was really anxious. My mood was really low. I was reactive. I was numb emotionally. I was like, just couldn't get through life. I was abusing all of these substances to make me feel good because I thought what was going on up here was controlling how I was feeling and showing up. And that's partly true, okay? But there is another massive, massive part of your body and your internal systems that is impacted from growing up in the environment that is having an alcoholic parent. And again, you'll hear me repeat this all the time, but growing up in this chaotic, unpredictable environment wreaks havoc on your nervous system. So when you are growing up in that unpredictability, the chaos, you don't know what's going to happen next. You don't know what side of your parent you're going to get. That wreaks havoc on your nervous system and puts you into either constant fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. These are all a body response. They're survival responses that the body will automatically do naturally. It's something that is ingrained in us as human beings. It's not something your mind decides, okay? So to understand this simply is that, yes, you're growing up with an alcoholic parent is impacting your mind. This is meant to be a brain, by the way. That's a brain. But it's also impacting your body. This is a body. So it's impacting the full self. So that is why nervous system regulation is so important, because when the body is in that state of hyperarousal, when it's in that state of overwhelm, when it's in dysregulation, you've got a constant, I'm going to say source, which is probably not the right word, a constant flow of stress hormones going through your body. The stress hormones are activated. You've got cortisol, adrenaline, constantly pumping through your body, constantly making your body feel like it's up against a threat, and you end up getting stuck in this cycle of overwhelm. And the only way to break that cycle is by regulating your nervous system. So when you're feeling all these symptoms of anxiety, when you're feeling these symptoms of depression, when you're feeling really low, when you're reactive, when you're feeling heavy, when you just cannot be bothered, you're unmotivated, you just have no energy or want to do anything. Or on the other side, you feel like you've drank too much coffee, you're feeling this overstimulation. And step 5 is creating a future that is your own, not a future that's been created by your parents' pain. So up until this point in life, this is you now, your parents' pain, or the pain that you're feeling from your parents' alcoholic drinking, has been controlling your life up until now. But that does not have to continue to control your life into the future. And if you want to allow yourself to feel happy, if you want to wake up the majority of the time feeling happiness, contentment, fulfilled, and not waking up feeling like you have to drag yourself out of bed and dreading the day to come, you have to allow yourself to start creating a future that's not built from your parents' pain and suffering. So happiness comes from choosing what you want to do, what you love, understanding what do you love, what do you want, what could you choose to do if fear wasn't holding you back. And this comes back to awareness, this comes back to self-reflection, this comes back to reconnecting back to your inner child, to allowing yourself to feel the emotions that are clouding everything around you. Because when you work through your self-awareness, when you acknowledge your inner child, when you start feeling your emotions, when you regulate your nervous system, all of this then allows you to feel calm, to feel balanced, and come back to a baseline that actually gives you clarity. You finally feel like you can somehow think clearly, and like that the clouds that have been over you for so long have finally lifted. So the last step, step number 5 to happiness, is understanding what do you want as an individual? What do you want to do if you didn't have to continue to carry around that pain in your life? And it's as simply as putting it like this. Do you want to take the path forward, or do you want to continue to take the path backwards? Do you want to go for your future self, or are you going to keep keeping yourself stuck in your past? Because a big thing is that we can feel like our pain and our past and being the children of alcoholics is like our identity. That's who we are. But your pain is not your identity. That's not who you are. It's something that you're dealing with. It's something that you're feeling. It's something that's in your life. But yes, you're the child of an alcoholic, but that's not who you are. That's just a label to give you a name of what you've experienced. And I really try to drive this home for my clients is, yes, I identify as a child of an alcoholic. I identify as that because that allows me to feel like I have a connection with people who have experienced something similar to me. But I do not allow that to be my identity. I do not allow that to make the decisions of what I want to be in life. I don't allow that to make me feel like a victim of my past and say, I am a child of an alcoholic, so I don't have to work hard and decide what I want to do and do what I need to do to heal my mind and my body. That's not how it works. And if you do want to have your pain as your identity, then you just go back on the past path. But if you don't want that to be your identity, then it's the path forward that you need to start carving out for yourself. These 5 steps are the foundation to your happiness. And I know that because I have lived them. These are the 5 steps that I have personally taken on my own journey to allow myself to actually feel a level of happiness I never thought was possible for me. So what I would love to hear from you in the comments is, what step do you need to focus on right now? Is it step number 1 of acceptance and awareness? Is it step number 2 of healing your inner child and allowing yourself to feel your emotions? Is it step number 3, setting healthy boundaries? Is it step number 4 of healing and regulating your nervous system? Or is it step number 5? Do you need clarity on what your life will look like without the pain, without having the identity of being the child of an alcoholic? I would love to hear from you in the comments. If you are going to focus on one of these steps, or if you feel like you want to work on one of these steps, please drop it in the comment below. I would love to hear what one you're going to work on. And if this video resonated with you, please hit like and please subscribe to my channel for more videos like this to help you heal from having an alcoholic parent.